Hello, LinkedIn, and welcome back. Welcome to our podcast listeners. You won't be able to join us live today, but I'm Sarah from Tribal Impact, and today I am joined by Alex Herr, a global employer branding leader and also one of the co-founders of the EB Space. And I'm really excited to speak to you, Alex, because I think I first connected with you on LinkedIn not a year ago, but it was last year, I think. And I think I saw a YouTube video or an interview that you did a few months ago. And I thought, you're quite fascinating, actually. So welcome. Welcome to our session. Do you want to just introduce yourself and who you are, what you do, how you got into the role? Give our
Yeah,
audience a bit of a
yeah,
background.
definitely. First and foremost, thanks for having me. I've done too many videos that I can count. Hopefully, it was a good one that caught your eye. But yeah, Alex Herr. So I am a global employer brand leader. I'm also one of the co-founders of the EB Space with my good friend Claire D'Souza out of the UK, and I've had the opportunity of being in this space for about about at least 7 years plus. I keep wanting to think it's like 4 or 5 years, and I've my age is creeping up there with the experience. But and I just love employer branding, and the opportunity gives us to connect with different teams, and presenting opportunities to people who are job seekers who want to find their dream job or dream culture slash workplace one day.
Oh, fantastic. It's so I'm really curious, and already I'm going off script. So, Ryan in the background, I am sorry, but I'm curious, how did you get into this role, Alex? Can you give us a bit of a sneaky peek as to what your career journey was to get you into this role?
Oh wow. Let's try to. That's a which we had enough time to go through everything, but short version of it all. I actually started in IT, so I was in working the
Okay.
help desk, tech support, and I was oddly enough doing this at an insurance company, so workers' comp insurance, as they call it in the states. And I ended up always going to talk with people and who were my customers internally, and they worked on the insurance side. So I figured, okay, you know what? I could go be a network engineer, and that was the goal at the time. But I enjoy talking to people. Like I went from not talking at all to being very, very introverted to merging into who I am today. But I decided, okay, let me go to the insurance side. I could engage customer support, work with different people, talk more, which is more, it's my personality started to change from what you would have for your typical persona of like an IT person, right? I was more social. I want to do more. Not saying there's not people like that, but it's not very typical. And then from there, I had a really good leader who encouraged me to go back to school because I had got my associates in networking, and I was pretty set, right? And I had 2 kids. I had no reason to do anything else. But he saw my potential and said, "You got to get the hell out of here. Like, go back to school. Like, you have good skills. I can see that. You can't like you basically can't die in this job." So then he told me to go back. So I pursued my bachelor's in multimedia and visual communications. So I'd wanted to create video games. Seems like a rather easy task, and I realized it was difficult. So I love the media aspect, social media, and I couldn't find any work specifically when I was in Michigan. So the north of the U.S. Was where I used to live, and the opportunity to find more work to do what I wanted to do was in Austin, Texas. So I went from the north of the border near Canada down to the south, north of Mexico, and got into digital marketing, so the agency side. So I did all that, learned the ins and the outs of SEO, display, mobile campaigns, and then I found a job at the time, and it wasn't called what it is today, right? There's no talent brand, employer brand titles back then. It was digital marketing specialist. So I knew I had a glass ceiling at the agency I was at, so it was time to move on and apply for this job. Went through the process, got it as a contractor, and I realized, okay, I'm taking all the skills that I have and I'm applying that to help out job seekers like myself. And and I started thinking about what attracted me to when I was moving to Austin. It's these cool places that at the time, hey, foosball tables, they had happy hours. They showed like a communal type of bond, right, that they had with their teams. And that's always the best, right? You like that versus the sites that just went straight to work day and there's nothing there to like really attract you.
Yeah.
So instantly after that, I'm like, okay, I think this is going to be it. And I had the ability to work with some phenomenal people at Cox Automotive where I started, and that helped me out. Like I'm never going to say that I came into this and I knew everything. I did not know nothing at all. I just took a variety of skills that I had, and they helped push me in the right direction. And it's been working. I've been lucky for the last 7 years to be doing this, and I hope I can continue to do this until I can maybe retire and eventually make it out to Maldives one day. We'll see.
Do you know what I think is fascinating about that story is that, well, first, you had a great leader who saw your potential. And I think that's massively important. But also you've taken marketing skills, the recognition that you enjoy working with people and then the technical digital space as well. And it's all combined into a wonderful job where you get to do what you love. So yeah,
Agreed.
That's so cool. What a great story. I always think it's quite interesting because I think it's for anybody new into this space who wants to work in this space. I think it's quite interesting to understand the career paths. Anybody who's listening or watching live, pop a comment in, say who you are and where you're from, because this is an interactive conversation. As always, I have a list of questions, but if you've got any questions for Alex, this is the perfect time. For those of you listening on the podcast, you're not going to get that opportunity, but you can connect with Alex on LinkedIn after. So, so coming back to your love of social media and people and marketing and bringing all those skills together, you've been quite a active advocate of employees on social media and getting employee stories out there as the authentic representation of the brand, which is something I personally love. But I'd love to dig into the results and what what persuaded you that there's something in this, and why do you keep pursuing this as your career?
Yeah, so it was actually one of the one of the first projects I had the chance to work on when I got into the space, and it was just the seeing how we were at the time. I saw how a fully functional program ran, where we were awarded as teammates at Cox Automotive, and we built the program from scratch, right? So seeing, okay, hey, you can actually they're helping you share stuff on social, so it's building your personal brand. You're also building out the employer brand for the company or enhancing it. And okay, this is actually leading to applicants and hires. So from there, it's I've looked at a variety of different things, and in a lot of cases, we walk into these jobs and we're always sold that we're going to have a massive budget, and we find out that we don't, right? So there's a combination of that, and you need to. It's almost like the floor is lava situation, right? You're melting quick, so you need to show exactly what your value is, right? And why it matters. And I think you can go out and spend money on these out of home marketing campaigns you may see on the tube, and you spend let's say 20,000 pounds, but that results in one hire. That's great, but does it happen all the time, right? And is it really trackable? So I always feel the most important customer outside of the customer itself and asset is the people, right? The people that work at the company, because people ultimately want to work with people who look, sound like them, think like them, have the same drive, same motivation. Maybe you're working on projects that they want to be working on. It's all about connections. And if you take that to LinkedIn, the whole point is to link in together. So going with that route, I've just always felt that people just want to hear from other people, because when you're working with recruiters or even folks like myself, right, who have a tie-in to TA, because we typically sit in TA, I've got an instant means, right? I've got to make sure I attract people. That's kind of part of the job. So, but if you hear from the head of engineering, that's a different story, right? And it's going to resonate more than just the JD that you see on our career page.
Oh, that's fun. And there's so many things, and it's more scalable, right, as well. So you can't afford to put ads on the tube every week to get one recipient. I've got to do a little bit of a shout out because I can see people popping in the comments. So hi, Amy from Southampton, just down the road from me, listening in from New York City. I don't know. Actually, it might be or do you have a Southampton in America? Maybe it's not the one down the road from me, but
no, we don't.
So, New York City, go Alex. Don't know who you are because it's come up as LinkedIn user. And then Leticia. So thank you very much for joining us as well. And pop your questions in the comments as we go. So you touched on a few things there, actually. Digitally, it's easier to measure because LinkedIn is all about linking in and connections and conversations. But also, I love the bit where you said when our head of engineering has something to say, they reach a whole different audience and have a whole different appeal. And so but how do you get employees, especially from a technical background, active? Because just based on my experience, I used to work for SAP, and a lot of the software engineers were a bit like, I'm not using social media. That's for influencers. I don't go there. So how do you encourage employees, especially those from maybe technical backgrounds, to get involved?
It does require some initial conversations and really like, kind of pulling teeth and, selling them on that, right? But, my approach has been, okay, listen, we can go your route. We can copy and paste the job description. We can post that on LinkedIn, where we know like engineers have a presence, but they're more of a hipster type of crowd, right? They're on Stack Overflow, GitHub, they're on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it now. They're not on LinkedIn. So you can run campaigns there. You're probably not going to attract them like that. However, if you let me, rather than posting it there and wasting money, let's try this first. Let's go with this approach for 30 to 60 days, where if I can have you on camera, share because you know better than anybody else. What are like 4 or 5 reasons someone should join your engineering team? What are you working on? Because they don't want they have engineers are unique where they can pick and choose their jobs, right? Those of us in other industries, we're kind of looking there and saying, okay, hey, I hope there's something there for me. They have the king's ransom in terms of what they want. So give them a reason. Like if you talk about, you're working on different AI projects, things that really capture their attention and the benefit to them, that's going to get some buy-in where they're like, okay, let me reach out. Let me actually do something here, because the whole approach is you want to take them from, being someone who is maybe not even a passive job seeker to passive. They see enough of this. They hear from the head of engineering, whoever you can have on camera or via a blog, whatever works best for them. And they're eventually going to become an active candidate and take the action to actually apply and go through the interview process.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And this is about getting them excited and drawing them in and you can see yourself here, and this is a place where you can grow, and this is a place where we'll, invest in you to develop. And, a job description doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't. And I think you have to also level set expectations, because it's, if you break it down on a marketing level, right? It's top level, top of funnel. It's not bottom of funnel. And I think every time everyone thinks it's super transactional, it's if I do this, it should result in a hire. And it's going to take some time. And I think knowing that, you can prepare them correctly. But if you're saying, hey, we do this one post, guarantee hires, that's not going to work.
Oh, Alex, I've had 2 conversations today, and that is the same language for sales and social selling. And it's the same language for marketing, because marketing, do this, get a conversion on your website, do this, you get a deal in the pipeline. Doesn't work like that. It's constant influence through different techniques. And yeah, fascinating.
Exactly. And then also too, if you're reactive and doing that when you need to help them, it's kind of too late. You're still unknown. You could be a known company on the consumer side, but from an employer brand perspective, people don't know about you. They may know with your full-time gig, with the products that you sell, but what does your team offer, right? You don't talk about that. You are starting from scratch. You're no further ahead than a startup.
Yeah, fascinating. And that actually reminds me, I did a blog not long ago about, I think it was last week actually, about appealing to audiences that wouldn't otherwise, or even generations that wouldn't even consider you as an employer of choice, because you just wouldn't be on their radar, but actually being where they're hanging out through TikTok videos. So we have a supermarket over here, which even the king buys from, called Waitrose. It's considered a old-fashioned, deeply, important supermarket. But but would it be an employer of choice for a new generation that's coming into the workforce? They probably wouldn't even think of it as an employer of choice, but they have a presence with their employees on platforms like TikTok, appealing to a new generational audience.
And that's smart on their part. I can't speak enough good things about TikTok. Have seen a lot of success with on a personal level and full
Oh.
time level with that. I just think it's everyone really does forget that. Okay, like you said, if it's a maybe an old school brand or it doesn't seem like it's hip and cool, that there are ways you can still compete. It doesn't have to be on the same platforms as the other people.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting. Well, you mentioned about GitHub and different places where technical audiences are hanging out. They might not be on LinkedIn, so you've got to be first where your audience are, and then you've got to be there with content that appeals to them. So there's a couple of different ways. So
Exactly.
I've got to say, so why do you think so many brands sort of hesitate from embracing advocacy fully then and getting employees involved? What do you think's holding companies back from investing in this?
Well, I think
But
just rip off the Band-Aid, Sarah. There's they're afraid that people do that and they're gonna, they're gonna go viral, they'll leave the company, and like, yeah, there's a risk. There is a huge risk, right? But there is also a risk that it's gonna go well. So it's a gamble. And I think that gamble is worth it because okay, we've talked about like that brand you just talked about, an old school store where they're not very well known. But okay, what if I'm sure for them to do that, they had to take a chance on someone saying, hey, listen, this may be way out of left field, outside the pitch, but we are going to try TikTok. Completely different. So the same approach could be taken with, okay, we're gonna have like 20 people get out there. And yeah, they may get poached by somebody, right? But you know what you're gonna do? The other selling point to them is they are going to build our brand, right? People are going to hear from them directly. On top of that, you're going to turn them into, they may be an influencer, they may be seen as a thought leader if that's what they want to be, but you're going to help them out because I found a lot of people who are part of the programs that either I've been a part of, I've had the chance to help create. They've always wanted to do this, right? But not everyone is comfortable putting themselves out there. Because I know when I put something out there, it could be the dumbest thing to me. It may be, the greatest thing since sliced bread to other people, right? Or it could just be something that gets like one like and it's on to the next idea. But I'm not afraid to shoot that out. The next person needs some help. And you're helping them, get there and just really, really build themselves. And I think that is I think the companies that can look at that, embrace it, say, okay, yeah, there's always the risk factor, but you're helping them out, and they're going to see that you actually entrusted them to do that, just like you would entrust them to do other things, and just just being the best ambassador possible.
yeah, and there's the key word, right? Trust. Because I think if you can
Trust is huge.
demonstrate employees are taking the initiative to create their own content off their own back because they enjoy the workplace that they're in, but they also have the support, permission, whatever you want to call it, from
Yeah.
the brand to be able to do that, says an awful lot than any other EVP document can say or any other, employer branding statement can say.
Yes, exactly. Like I think I don't want to attack the EVPs, right? But the truth is, when we walk into these companies, like if you have the opportunity, you have budget, I think it's phenomenal. But not every situation is one where you walk in EVP, like the ideal situation, EVP messaging, activate, social, employee advocacy programs built out. That's not the way that it works. Not at
Mm.
all. But I think if you can look at this approach and say, hey, let's try this first, right? That's a way to get a not necessarily a quick win, but it's closer than just waiting and hoping that the ceiling doesn't fall through on you.
So we're talking a little bit about employee generated content and things. So I want to go there a little bit and then we'll talk
Sure.
about the EB space in a bit. But so we know, 80% of job applicants are checking out employees' social media before applying. They're also checking out executives on social media. They're looking at,
Mhm.
platforms for review of how the culture is. And are they shifting away from job boards? I don't know. They're probably there too. But how can businesses help employees feel more confident about sharing their own stories and their own experiences without feeling they're a bit scripted and, organized?
Um, so it could be that simple, or it could be that difficult. I think ultimately your culture and kind of the
Mm,
state of your company does really decide that, right? Because
mm,
I'm not going to lie to you and say that what works now with where I work at is going to work in an environment where I previously worked, because before
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to be where I'm at the moment. I did work at a company where I thought I could come in, employee generated content. What I was sold on when I joined there was another thing versus when I was there. I could not get a
Okay.
person to do a single thing, and that actually it helped me out to create a team methodology based off of that horrible experience, but it was a learning experience nevertheless. But you could want to get people on camera and do those things. I think they're all great in theory, but if the culture is bad, it's going to be difficult to do that. But let's take that away. Having the ideal situation of just reaching out to individuals and giving them that space. One, no, you being able to read people in terms of, okay, you may have 20 volunteers, but are they comfortable with talking like you and I are right now, where okay, we can just completely go off the rails, we can go right back, and the conversation is free flowing, right? But they
Mm.
may be someone who needs talking points. They may be someone where, okay, outside of just jumping on their mobile device or a platform you have, they need to have someone here where, okay, they're on like a Zoom call or something, and you can slice it up, but you have a conversation with them. But I think ultimately you have to give them that again, it goes back to trust and that comfort zone to really, hey, speak what's on your mind. It's okay. If they know they're going to be reprimanded for that, right, they're not going to hop on camera. That's just the honest truth. But providing a safe zone for them, I think, would really go a long way, and has helped out with what we've done before.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to metrics actually, because I'm
Sure.
curious about this, because you touched on metrics earlier. And Sherelle, hello Sherelle, thank you. Helping people solve their own problems, I think, is a good one. These big companies should think
Agreed.
about having think tanks and sandboxes for employees to have a controlled creative freedom. Sherelle, I love that. Oh, it's Sherelle. Okay. Yeah, I love that idea, because I've often thought about how, when I wrote this blog about these supermarkets last week, I was thinking, how
Yeah.
have they done this? They've not forced a creative process, but they're supporting their employees with a creative process. They're inspiring them
Mhm.
to come up with ideas, but allowing them to interpret it in their own way. Have you got any experience with that, Alex?
Yeah, we're doing a bit of that here with the full-time gig, and that is, I think that's key. Like, if you can ideate, you can experiment, you can think outside the box. It's like, okay, hey, maybe this is not it's not necessarily the fear factor, but like maybe this is not a dumb idea after all, right? Because the truth
Yeah.
is, we all have a lot of ideas, but that idea doesn't make it to fruition because we kind of kill that in our head. We're like, oh, I shouldn't bring this up. Maybe it's not going to work. But if you have like senior level leadership who are like, hey, let's throw it out there. It's okay. It's okay to do this. It's okay to fail. I think that's one big thing as well, because
Mm.
I've had a lot of ideas that don't make it to LinkedIn. They are killed well before they get there. But I have support where it's like, hey, it's okay. It's okay to mess up, and I think that is
Yeah.
something that people do need to hear.
Yeah, it just reminded me actually. But these are similar techniques that you can use for employer branding with your ambassadors. But I've got a great example of one of our customers who, one of their it's their salesperson actually, but he creates videos to spark interest around their customer event, their annual customer event in Florida.
Mhm.
And last year saw him dressed as a dinosaur having lunch with the CEO of the company. What a fantastic, and this feels to me like one of those ideas, Alex, that you might have had. But it's a great creative idea, and it's even funnier to watch. It's just a brilliant, and getting employees involved in that is fantastic. So
Oh, I
that's a good one.
agree. Yeah. Especially put on
Oh, you're
a
gonna have to.
dinosaur suit. That's next level.
I'm going to send you the clip if we can't find it and put it in the comments here. But it's really
Sure.
funny. It's Kurt Fox, if anybody's looking for that click, who did it. And it's fantastic. But what a great way to engage senior leaders with employees who wouldn't otherwise, work with them, to do that sort of thing and have a bit of fun and create some viral content. It's a brilliant idea.
I
So
agree.
I'm coming back to metrics. So
Okay.
oh, yeah,
No,
because you
you're
did
good.
touch on that earlier. And I'm demonstrating the impact, because at the very start of this, you talked a little bit about metrics and how
Mhm.
how you measure the impact and getting applications, but application to interview and interview to hire and time to hire.
Yeah.
And well, you didn't mention all of those, they're just in my head. But how do you measure the impact of ambassador work on the impact on business metrics?
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't see enough of. I know that the team at Bolt, they have a very successful campaign that they've shared. But I think outside that, there's been other, other folks mentioning the work that they've done. And I don't want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention HelloFresh. They have a good campaign as well. But I think everyone is looking at employee or employer ambassadorship as a shiny new tool, just like EB was many years ago, but they don't know how to measure that or how it would impact the business, right? And I think it's great. We talk about selling people on that, getting leaders on camera, getting them to participate, but what's the true value behind that? And I think the direction to be headed in is taking all your vanity metrics, your engagement, impressions, clicks, but looking at the earned media. And with that, what I mean is there is value on the engagement with the comments, the shares, the reshares, the clicks. What's the value behind that? Because essentially what you're doing is you're running a paid campaign, and this is not a secret that I'm sharing, right? All the vendors are out there doing that. And what they're doing is they're providing value behind the work that you're doing. But for the longest time, I don't think we as employer brand practitioners in this industry have looked at that to say, okay, instead of talking about, hires and applications, how are we showing the value of this that we're doing for free? Honestly, these programs are, you may throw some sort of monetary value behind that to award people for their efforts, like shares and most engagement. But there's a lot of work that goes behind that. You think about programs that are 70 plus people globally, targeting different markets. You're targeting engineers, you're running videos, display ads, essentially. But you're just, you're not monetized, but we're not monetized, but you're not actually providing value behind that. So I think first and foremost, what anyone can do is you can run this from scratch. You can create a program, you can drop that in Slack, Teams, email. If you don't have the other options, I guarantee you it seriously does work. And then just track your links, use a Google UTM tracker to track the links. You can see the amount of clicks. But then on top of that, if you were to look at the value of things right now, I believe the present day value is about $2 USD per share, and then engagement could be $2.50. So that's base level, right? That's going to show you some instant value. But if you want to take it to the next level, which is free to do, reach out to, for sure, everyone is paying LinkedIn something, right? So reach out to your account manager and simply just ask what the cost of a campaign would be, because you're running a free campaign that would be paid otherwise. And then give them the breakdown of the audience that you're trying to reach, right? Guarantee it's pretty targeted. You're looking at individuals in the key locations that you're hiring, as well as maybe engineers, maybe customer service associates. And then what they'll give you from there is, instead of that little measly $2 USD that you're applying to your program, you're probably looking at 15 to 20 CPM or CPC. So the CPM is cost per thousands. Why the M is there is beyond me. But CPC, cost per click, that adds up rather quickly. And I guarantee you, doing that, having a decent sized program, you're going to show some ROI. And that to me shows the value of the work that you're doing, because you're creating everything as a whole, right? That content, the videos, the blogs, they're not going for nothing, right? They're going there. There's an ends to a means with that. And then you're applying that with people sharing it with the program, the value behind that. Ultimately, that will end up being, a huge ROI that will, be upwards of maybe several hires for the year, and just shows the true value of what you're having. And then, we can keep diving into analytics, but I think at a base level, that's what one should be doing with the program.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And yeah, the earned media value is it's a typical metric from an advocacy perspective. So if you take away employee ambassadors, but actually looking at an advocacy program, in marketing, a cost per click could be anywhere, depending on what keywords you're going after. It's about 5 to 10 euros is what we look at. It's expensive. Yeah. Right. And the thing we've seen with customers is, if you put employee generated content into your employee advocacy program, all their peers would much rather share a peer piece of content than something from the brand necessarily. So they're much more, it's like, oh, I didn't know Alex had written that, I'm going to share that, and actually the visibility, the impressions, the reach, the clicks, And if you've got all of that tied up, you can look at conversion rates on your career site as well. And then you can start to look at conversion rate by source of traffic. And then it gets really interesting, because if you can track that back to your hiring, even better. But I know a lot of organizations are not totally tied up like that, but yeah.
No worries. And I wanted to avoid going there just to not get too deep into the weeds, but I'm glad you mentioned source traffic, because I think that is another area, especially with Google Analytics, that we all get for free, that you can go and look at to show the value of what you're doing. Because if you historically have paid so much to vendors, and we're going to keep paying some job board vendors, right? That's just going to happen. But if you're showing that your work is actually leading to your sources being like the top 5, top 10 for your career page, to me, that shows, this goes back to the top of funnel. You're leading everybody there. Ultimately, they're going to take an action. And that is a result of the work that you, if you're one person show, or you and your team are doing to build your employer brand.
Yeah. And also I would look at traffic volume, but also conversion rate. So this is why I think it's quite important, because employees don't necessarily drive thousands of eyeballs, but they do drive the right ones that convert, because they've got trusted networks. And that's the same for marketing, and that's the same for, career sites. So
very true. Very true.
Yeah. Helen said Waitrose versus Marks and Spencer's, which is cooler or less cool? Helen, just look at them on TikTok. I'd say Waitrose is way cooler than Marks and Spencer's, and Tesco's as well. They've got some catching up to do. Mind you, I haven't really looked at Marks and Spencer's on TikTok. I must do that. So I want to talk a bit about the EB space, Alex.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that community and what inspired you to start it off? And then we'll have a few questions around that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So my good friend Claire and I, we were part of another community, and what we saw was lacking was there's a lack of ethnic minorities who are running specific type of groups, or just really leading the way when it comes to talent acquisition and employer branding. So with us being that Claire of South Asian descent, myself Southeast Asian, being Hmong, that was a thing that we really wanted to tap into. So we enjoyed working together on a committee, and we said, okay, if we could do this our way, I think there's a lot of great things we learned from that community, and nothing to take away from that. But what will we do better? What would we do differently? We want to be more, we want something that's not just US based, UK based. We want to go global, because that's the way we truly feel about our reach and our industry. So we decided to go the non-conventional route of, okay, let's go with Discord. So I literally just reached out to my son, who is trying to be a pro gamer, and him and his cousins had a Discord server, and I said, okay, how does this work? Let me go ahead. I'm going to duplicate your server, and then I will turn that into different channels where, okay, hey, we can have channels based off of jobs, different topics, things for us to talk about. And once I had that going, I'm like, okay, I think this would work. And it's on top of that, it's all free. So we decided to go ahead and launch that, and we said, all right, we're going to put this out there. We're probably going to get 20 good friends, and maybe this is all it ever becomes, right? And that's okay by us. Here we are now. It's been about a good year and some, and we are close to 700 members globally across 45 countries, and still just try to pitch ourselves and try to wake up from this, because it doesn't seem like it's real, but it's been a fun ride thus far.
And that's amazing, Alex, because a truly global community. I'm curious, what sort of, do you see differences geographically around the employer branding space in those conversations? Do you see certain regions operating employer branding differently? What things do you notice based on the global reach of the community?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some areas of the world where employer branding is there, but it's not quite developed. And then there are areas, let's say like UK, US, where there are more mature conversations, and rightfully so, because we like you guys first had Simon Barrow came up with that, so it started there in terms of actually activating that and doing something with it. But there's more going on, but there's it's developing everywhere else, right? And it's, honestly, it should be everywhere else too, because once you start hiring, you have an employer brand, but people are now finally managing that. But yeah, you're getting conversations like that. I mean, hey, where's AI going? What are the what are the best opportunities out there? How can I leverage maybe Google Analytics versus a video platform? Fun stuff like that. I think that you really can't get on LinkedIn.
No, I'm really sorry. I knew this would happen because the door's been left open, but you're going to see my cat. This is
It's
very
okay.
unprofessional, everyone. But you can see my cat. Ryan's probably thinking, what are you talking? There he is. There you go. He's an absolute monster. So he's come to join us, Alex. There you go.
That's okay.
So, anyone listening to the podcast must be thinking, what is that?
What she's talking about.
Yeah, honestly, I knew we should have shut that door. But no, I think that's so you touched on some of the topics that are coming up in there, like how do we track, how do we measure and things like that. But I'm thinking, what sort of challenges are you hearing from your community? What's top of mind in your community around employer branding at the moment?
Um, I think the job market globally has been
Mm.
tough, and I think it's you get people who don't know what they want when it comes to people like us. I mean, it's not like we're a disease or something. We're employer branding practitioners, but they're wanting there's no true understanding of like what's a specialist versus a strategist versus a
Okay.
manager. Is it a manager of brand? Is it a manager of people? What are you looking for?
Ah,
And I think you have a lot of people on the market, and employer branding. I think the investments it's gotten better, and it's almost corrected itself. With the recent market where okay they're looking for more practitioners now, but they also know I would say hiring managers know there's a lot of people out there, so they are trying to get people for cheap, which is not cool because the work that we do honestly is a lot of project management, a lot of different things, 4 or 5 strong foundational skills that come together, right?
mm.
And I think that it's being undervalued by some companies.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating place to be in. It comes back to driving impact, doesn't it? Improving impact
Yeah.
of this role and the costs that it saves, but also the quality of candidates it generates by doing this, improving that impact and improving the value of the role to the organization, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. And I think that's something, it's also of a fault of our own too, right? I'm not just saying it's on the companies. I think that we have to do a better job of showing that. So like I'm very, as you can see by my content and stuff I've done in the past in terms of speaking, I'm always going to be about that, right? I'm about I love the qualitative stuff, but I'm going to be quantitative. I want to throw that in your face. I want to make sure that you know the impact of what I'm doing or what our industry is doing. But I also encourage and I want people who are in this industry to do the same thing because, just some of the cool, like it's cute to put photos up, hey, office opening, but what does that result in, right? Like that stuff
yeah.
can only live for so long. You got to show your leadership like what you're doing, the true impact of that. And then I think we can afford to have those conversations where okay, hey, maybe we should be given a higher salary, entry level salary for folks who are just getting into the space, folks who've been there for a few years, more some of the OGs in the space. And I'm not one of them, right? 7 years doesn't count as being an OG in the space, but I think we can have a bigger seat at the table once we kind of kind of clean house and take inventory on ourselves. I think that's needed.
Yeah, you're a truly data-driven employer branding leader in this, Alex. I think it's really good, and anybody, you should follow Alex on LinkedIn. Maybe join the community. How do they join the community, Alex? Can anybody join? Do they have to pay to join? Is that if they're a practitioner employer branding, how do they go about doing that?
Well, I'm going to be in London here in a few weeks, so if you buy me a pint, you're welcome to join automatically.
Right, you have to tell me.
But I will
I'll
let you
come
know.
meet you.
No, but yeah, just go to theebspace.com. And right now we are accepting in-house practitioners as well as external consultants. But to be honest, we want external consultants who are just like not from these larger consultancies because we do have a lot of individuals who they don't just we all don't just do it on our own. We do some of us do work with agencies. We want to make sure that it's Chatham House rules where whatever we talk about in there stays in there. So apologies if you apply and you don't meet those requirements. I'm sure there's other ways we can work together, but we're limited to those two groups at the moment.
Fantastic. No, I love that. And I love how you put it up there. We don't have any pitching. We don't have any vendors. This is for community conversations. So yeah, fantastic. Alex, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us and to our community and sharing your experiences. Yeah. Oh, Donna's popped the link into the chat, actually. So anybody who wants to join that is a practitioner, if you're listening on the podcast, that's where to go. So fantastic. And thank you for everyone for contributing and for everything that you've shared with us today, Alex. It's absolutely brilliant. And we have another session in a couple of weeks' time, April 8th, and it's all about demonstrating B2B marketing success in a post-attribution world. So some of the, the things we touched on earlier, it's like you can't do this and expect that. It's all got a bit grey and a bit difficult to do. So if you want to look at how you're tracking that, then that would be one to join. But for now, Alex, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.